Okay, so today we're going to be talking about UV unwrapping. So let's talk about UV unwrapping. So let's say, for example, now I want to convert this 3D model into a 2D UV map for texturing or for baking. So how do we go about doing that? First of all, let's change our layout to UV editing. So I'm just basically going to be talking on, let's turn on this UV toolkit and click on this UV editor. Okay, then I'll hide this for now. So in here, I'm going to be talking about, let me just close all of this for now. I think by default, it should be closed. So I'm just going to be specifically talking about the major tools we'll be using in here, which is one, transform tool, not very often, but let's just have that opened up. We create, cut, unfold, arrange and layout. That is fine. Okay. So this is basically most of the tools you're going to be using in here. So right off the bat, once select your object, by default, Maya creates UVs for any object that's been dropped in here by default. So this is what we have for this cube. So let's say you want to delete this cube. So right click and hold, you can go to the UV shell. So this is actually a UV shell. Unlike in here where we have the object mode, you select the entire objects. In our UV space, they are actually called shells. They're actually called UV shells. So keeping that in mind. So now we have the wireframe on this and display wireframe display. This is fine. Cool. This is what we're going to be using for most of the time. It's completely fine. So that's why it's on by default. Then we have the shaded, like so. Then we have the UV distortion. So this tells us the particular region that is being distorted. So once you have this color on white, mostly maybe white or almost white, it's completely fine. That means your UVs are actually good to go. You can actually work with that. But this UV distortion gives you an idea of regions that are going to be having issues when you're texturing with it, and you're going to be having issues because the textures in there is going to be stretching by a lot depending on how bad or how high that color range is. So we have a color range from around white to red. So at full red, it means you're having distortion in that on that UV map that they actually need to fix. Somewhere around white to brighter blue is completely fine. So let me show you guys an example. So if I select this now, you can see how this becomes discolorated from white to blue to red. This red region means there's a lot of distortion happening in there, and this is actually bad. You don't want that in there. You don't want that. So you want to keep this at a more whitish value for a more accurate or to avoid stretching on your textures. So the idea will be to unwrap this, have this looking a bit whitish. That's the general idea. So regions where we need to fix is where we have a more darker blue tone and a more darker red tone to it. So let us turn this off for now. I'll turn this back on. Okay. So this is also showing us in a darker shade distorted regions also in that is in red. So now how do we fix this? But first, to fix this, let's start with something simple like so, and let's select this wireframe. Let's go to the shell mode and then we'll delete this. Alternatively, also if you right click and hold, you should have other options appearing also around here. Just like when you right click and hold, also you have other options appearing in here also. Same goes for holding control. Same goes for holding control. Same goes for holding shift. Different options appearing. Same goes for holding control and shift. Different options appearing based on what is being selected. Same thing happens in here also. Go back to object mode. So right click on node, you can select this and we can delete this. If I undo that, if you hold down shift, right click and hold, you can see other options appearing in here also. If I hold control, other options also appearing in here. If I hold down control shift and right click and hold, other options also appearing in here. Same also with this viewport. Just for more faster and easier access. Then we have various menu in here. Some of the menus in here are kind of what we have arranged around here for a much faster access to it. So keeping that in mind, so let's go to the UV shell and I'll delete this. So let's create our some UVs for this. So how do we go about creating UVs for this? That's the first question. First of all, you have to kind of select the object, not just selecting it by object in an object mode. You have to make sure it's being selected either in vertex or face or edges mode, but most preferably face mode. So let's come all the way here. So we have this in here, face mode. To select all the faces of this. Now we're going to start with a base. Let's start with a base. We need to start with a base and start with a base for the UVs to now work on that base. That's where we need to go to. We need to be on this create menu. So you can actually use any of this will work just fine. So let's start with the first one, automatic. So just kind of make sure, just kind of try to use the camera for the camera angles from the top view, front view, bottom view, side view, left and right, and back view. Kind of create UVs for this, which is what we have around here, and it's kind of break them up into pieces like so. So if you kind of check the distortion in there, notice that there isn't so much of a distortion happening in there. But the thing is that this is just way too many pieces to work with. It's just way too many pieces. It's just way too many pieces to work with. So let me undo that. So let's say we go back and select all these faces again. We can use the normal base. We also have something in here. As you can see, it's very few distortion happening in there. But this particular one has overlapping in there. There's a bit of an overlapping in there. Like I said, this is just to get an initial base for the UVs before you start working on it. So any of this can just be a good base to work with. You can use any of this. So keeping in mind also, once you have this selected and you kind of do a delete in here. So you have to make sure you're on this UV space before you click on delete. If not, if you're on this 3D space and you click delete, it will delete the entire 3D object. So keeping that in mind. So let's undo that. And delete this. Face mode again, I'll select this. Then we'll do a cylindrical creation for this. This particular option works mostly. It's kind of do a good job. It's kind of capture a cylindrical shape properly. So let's just try that now. So let's create object mode, shift right click and hold. Let's create a cylinder in here. Scale that up. Move this out of the way. I'll select this. Let's delete what we have in here. So go to face mode, select all this face, and let's do cylindrical mapping. So as you can see, it's kind of gets this UV mapping, the base more of like a cylindrical pattern to it, or cylindrical shape to it. But all of this is not going to be our final. It's not going to be our final UV for this. So this just get a good base to it. So let's start with this. I'll select this again. Delete this, undo. Make sure I'm on my UV space. Just kind of click in there and kind of do something in there, and then I just delete this. Then let's just select all the faces again. Let's just do a planar. as a base. Then we select all of this. We go to come in here to unfold, click on fold. Should have something like this. So let's go and check if this is alright, if there are no distortions in there. You can see how there are some problematic region around these sharp angles. So now that means we need to kind of cut this a bit more and kind of get this to look a bit better. So let's go out of this again. So what I would like to do now is to, now keeping in mind, these white lines in here are called your seam lines. These white lines in here are called your seam lines. So if I should select, do a double click and do a double click for this and select the entire loop, it will be selecting all the seam lines. So all the seam lines being selected. This seam line is just where you have a cut in there in the model. So the idea is to kind of make sure we're kind of hiding the seam line. But even though you're kind of hiding the seam line, there's still other ways to kind of go around this, because let's say for example now we add a checker pattern to this. So let's come in here to this icon, textures, checker pattern. You can see how this checker pattern is just, you can see the stretch in this checker pattern right now. Let me just select this UV and kind of scale this into the 0 to 1 space. Let me turn this off for now so you guys can show you guys 0 to 1 space. So our 0 to 1 space is from around here inside this box, like so. Inside this box all the way down here, all the way here, all the way up here, all the way here. So you want to kind of have your UVs inside the 0 to 1 space. Anything outside the 0 to 1 space, so long you're not working with UDEMs, it's not going to be visible. That means you're going to be having it cut out. If you have textures outside this, you're going to be having it cut out, and you don't want that. Okay, so now to kind of fix this, since we have distortions in there, to kind of fix this, then we need to kind of add some more precise cuts to this. Like for example, I'm going to select this, all these faces, and I'll come here and do a cut. But do a cut in there, if I go back to the UV shell, you can see how we have more seam lines around this because we're kind of cutting this out of the model. But now we're just having too many pieces to work with. We don't want that, so let's undo. Let's undo that. So the more preferable way to go about this is to do something like so. Hold down edge, the edge mode, select all this edge. I only want my cut line to be on only these edges. So I'll come in here and I'll click on cuts. Go to the shift, go to UV shell. You can move this shell out like so. Now let's say you want to kind of isolate this model only. You don't want to be seeing this other models. Kind of isolate this. You can just come in here to isolate select, or you click on the Ctrl 1 on your keyboard, but just come in here and click on isolate. You can visualize on just this only. You can go back to edge selection, select all these edges and do a cut again. UV shell, select this shell and just put this here. Okay. Can do the same in here. Select all the shell and do a cut. UV shell, select this shell and just put this all the way here. Edge mode, select this. Now you can see this shell is already cut out already. Why? Because I can see this white line, which is the same line in there. So I'll just select only this edge. It's not cut out yet. I'll click cut for this. UV shell, select this edge and just put this here like so. So now we have various pieces of this. Let's select all these pieces and click on unfold. So click on unfold in here now. Let's scroll down here and click on orient, and let's click on layout. So before we click on layout, let's kind of check the layout settings for this. For this layout allows you kind of pack this entire UVs in this 0 to 1 space. So let's come to modify and just click on this box icon in there. So let's adjust this a bit more. So by default, let us put this to, let's reset this. So by default, you have something like this. I'll drag this all the way up, though this doesn't do much though. I'll leave this the way it is, leave everything the way it is. I'll come in here and put this on 2K. So now the UV padding. So we have the shell padding and the tile padding. So this shell padding just means, let me just put it this way. It just means spacing in between one shell from another shell, like the spacing in between them. That's where this shell padding comes in. Then tile padding just basically means the distance between this UV shell and this tile in here, which is more or less like this bounding 0 to 1 space box. So I first kind of have this shell padding at 10 and the tiling padding at 20. This should be just fine. Select all of this, then we can click on layout. So this is kind of pack everything in our 0 to 1 space, like so. You can see everything is just packed inside our 0 to 1 space. So if you check this UV distortion now, you notice that there isn't so much of a distortion in there now, but also we have just too many pieces to work with. Let's kind of get this let's see if we can kind of get a singularity to this entire piece without so much of separation around everything. So how do we do that? So I can say, okay, let's begin to sew in some of these seam lines together. Like for example, we have a seam line in here. There are two seam lines in here, and this is making it two separate pieces. So how do we sew this together to kind of make them one piece? Do that. Let's go to edge mode. Select this edge. Then we'll just come to the cut and sew. Let's use stitch together. That doesn't seem to be working. Let's use this sew. Let's check if it's working. It does not seem to be working. Stitch together. That is quite strange. It's not working as it should. Okay. Let's try this instead. Let's selecting this. Let's do a sew. That is very strange. It doesn't seem to be working also. That is rather strange. Let me select this too and click on stitch together. Yes, now that is stitching together. Stitch together. UV shell. Select the shell. Let me just put this shell. Just put this shell around here. Okay. So now let's sew these two also together. Select these two. It doesn't seem to be sewing. Something is definitely wrong. Probably a bug or something. Okay. But that's fine. Let's just carry on. Let's say I'm going to sew this together. It's going to select the corresponding edge also, and then I'll click on stitch together. Let's select this also. Let's click on stitch together. So If stitch together is not working, then the sew should probably work. So selecting this corresponding edge also, let's click on stitch together, or let's try sew. You can see as we do this, we're kind of eliminating most of these same lines we're having around there. Alternatively, let me select this and let's do a stitch together. Okay, so you can see how we're kind of stitching this into one single piece. Stitch together, stitch together. You come in here and select this and then just do an unfold. Should have something like this. You can see there's very less distortion happening there. But another thing to keep in mind is that you want to kind of have your UVs looking as beautiful as you want it to. Okay, so another alternative way to kind of redo this is to kind of delete this again. I'll select all of this. I will do let's go to create, and we will do let's use the camera based projection for this. So we have something like so. So I can just start cutting this up where I want it to. Let's say I cut this up something like so. I'll do a cut, go to UV shell mode, I'll do an unfold. I can continue this on around here, hold down shift, I'll do a cut, select this, I'll do an unfold. I can also come in here also, UV, select this, I'll do a cut, select the shell, do an unfold. Come in here, select this edge, do a cut, select the shell, do an unfold. I'll select this. Let's select this corresponding edge. I'll do a stitch together. I don't even know what this piece is. Let's see, we can just delete that extra piece. We don't need it. I'll come in here and delete that also. Okay. Selecting this edge. Let's do a stitch together or a sew. Select this, we can do an unfold. There are just so many things to work with. I'm just going to show you guys how you can actually work with this. No, edge mode. Let's do a cut, do an unfold. So I have this as a separate piece. You can also come in here, do a cut, select the shell, unfold. Okay. You can also rotate this like so. You can also rotate this like so. You can also rotate this like so. Just to simplify most of this object, let's come in here, do a cut. You can do an unfold. And just put this on like something here like so. can select these two edge, can do a stitch together for this. Can select all of this shell, can do an orient, you can do a layout for this. So I'm basically just showing you guys how to kind of have a simplified UV. It's just basically the process: cut and then you sew and then you do a layout for this. Depending on how you want the UVs to be, then you can check the UV distortion, kind of see how this is. Okay, so let's say we want to kind of do the same thing. So let's go out of isolation mode, Control 1, or you can just click on this isolate select. Let's say we want to work on create UVs for this, Control 1 to isolate this. First things first, we go to face mode, select this face. We can do a base plane, select all of this again and hit enter on the keyboard. Let's go out of this. So now we have a good base to start with for the UVs. So we go to edge mode, double click on this edge loop, double click on this edge loop. Let's do a cut. Let's select this and push this all the way here. Select these two shells, we do an unfold. Let's do a layout for two of them, because they seem to kind of disappear out of sight. You can see disappearing in here now. So we have this on the top view. This particular one looks weird. It's supposed to be more circular in shape. So let's do an unfold. This is fine. Now we have this single piece. So now we have to kind of add a loop around this, because this is not folding. This is not unfolding properly. So we select this and we'll do an unfold. This can also work. Let's say you want to have this kind of straightened out. You can go to edge mode, select this edge, you can do a cut, select the entire shell, you can do an unfold, so this kind of looks a bit straighter. Come here and click on orient. You can come into the transform tool and kind of rotate this like so. Select everything, then let's do a layout for this. Kind of put everything in 0 to 1 space. And you're done. Okay. You can go out of this. Let's say you want to unfold this a bit more complex shape. Let's start by deleting all the shells in here. Okay, now this is a bit more complex than the previous one. So how do we go about creating UVs for this without so much of distortion in there? So select all of this. Let's just do a planar mapping for this. Then we'll come in here, edge mode. Let's start cutting things in here. So we can start by cutting this out entirely. Select this, do something like so. Let's select this bottom loop first. We're going to kind of select everything on the under parts in this loop. Like so. Select this loop, select this loop, select this loop, select this loop. You can select this also, select this also, select this, select this, select this, select this. You can double click and select this loop around this. Same also here, double click and select this loop. Kind of check if the entire loop is selected. That is fine. You can come here and select this loop also. Let's get this loop selected like so. Okay. Let's deselect this. Yeah, this should be fine. Then we'll come in here and just do a cut for this. Select everything and do an unfold. Select everything. Let's do an orient and layout. So now we have something like so. So if you check the distortion in there now, you can see how this part is a bit white. Is white. It's kind of okay to work with. But maybe not completely okay though. There's some other ways you can kind of stretch out this hue. It's kind of make it a bit straighter. But you can see we have some more redness around this region. So let's fix that. So I'll go out of this. So this particular chunk of UV, let's just hold down let's move this out of the way first. Like so. Let's work on this specifically. So edge mode, I'll select this edge loop. We have this loop selected like so. Select this loop, select this loop, select this loop. Then we can do a cut, do an unfold. Let's check the UVs for this. Let's see the UV distortion for this. Then let's start cutting this out even more. Edge mode, select this, do a cut, kind of have this separated out. Then we'll do an unfold. Select this, do an unfold. Go to edge mode. Let's have some of this cut out also. Let's do a cut. UV shell, unfold, unfold. Can do a cut in here also. Double click on this. Okay. It's not selecting the edge loop, so we're selecting it manually. Do a cut, single piece, unfold, a single piece, unfold, a single piece, unfold, a single piece, unfold. So let's select all of this again. Orient, layout. So let's check the distortion now, and I can see how this dark red is it's not so dark anymore. So this we can actually work with. But let's say we want to kind of make this a bit more refined. So I'm going to select all of these three, or these four rather. Push this out. Let's say we want to kind of have this straightened out. Let's start with a single piece like so. So I'll need to kind of orient them this way. Then I'll right click and hold. You won't use UV shell now. You're going to use this UV in here. Select all this UV in here. Shift right click and hold. Go to straighten. Then click on straighten UV. So you're going to try his best to kind of straighten out these UVs. So it's not doing a perfect job though. So let's select just these edges around here. Straighten UV. It doesn't seem to be working. Say straighten border. Okay. Let's try the straighten border also. Okay. Then we select everything again. Let's try straighten UV. Okay, perfect. Now we see how we can return this shape that's kind of twisted into a more straighter UVs for this. So that's precisely how you go about it. So let's select this also. First of all, start by kind of getting this looking as straight as it possibly can, because that will kind of help. Try to make this as straight as it possibly can. And select all of this. Let's do a straighten UV. select all of this, straighten border, select all of this, straighten shell, no, let's just use the straighten UV. Okay, fine. The same thing also in here. Go to UV shell, rotate to kind of get this to look as straight as you possibly can. Put this in here, UV, select all of this, straighten border, select all of this, straighten border, select everything, straighten UV. Same thing in here also. Select all of this, straighten UV. Let's select the entire shell and we'll do a layout for this. Okay. So now let's just check the distortion in there. So now this particular one will be just fine, even though we have a bit of some distortion in there, but that'll be fine because these UVs are kind of straight. So if you have a material applied to it, like a pattern applied to it, this pattern will kind of straighten itself out in this UV shell. So let's test that out and let's see, so I can show you guys what I mean. So let's apply a checker pattern to this. Okay, you can see how this checker pattern in this twisted region is looking a bit straighter because we kind of made them straight. You can see we don't have so much of distortion in there like we did initially. So this is how you kind of break or kind of separate out or create UVs for other complex shapes inside of Maya and then pack them into the 0 to 1 space. So I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. So I'll see you guys in the next lesson.